I was able to utilize the connections I made doing this to when I started doing the other stuff is like, hey, buddy, like, want to do this project with us? You know, like, I was able to kind of utilize those connections to, you know, do things like the 50th and everything like that. So now I already have now people know I can give them money. So now they're just nice to me.
Now the doors are open.
Exactly. The amount of people at the trade show that are just like, oh, Nick, how you doing? I'm like, I don't know you, man. I'm sorry, I have no idea who you are.
Welcome to my world. That happens so much.
Oh yeah. But it's been a journey, definitely. Thank you, everyone, for joining us on another great episode of the Long Ash Podcast. Today, I am joined by, it has to be a record, the top 5 tallest men in the cigar industry. I mean, who else is there?
There's a couple.
Who else? I mean,
you got Omar.
He's a big fella.
Dion from Illusion. I think he's with the hair.
I mean, if we're doing the hair, that gives him like an extra 6 inches. That's like wearing.
He may be taller. Tony Gomez.
Tony Gomez is really tall. Lito's son. Willie's pretty tall.
Well, Willie, yeah.
I don't know.
Willie, I don't know if Willie's tall. We're pretty close.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. But anyway, we are joined by, and also one of the nicest men in the cigar industry, the legendary Terence Reilly of Aganorsa. Terence, once again, thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure.
Oh, it's always the best podcast of our lives, every single time.
Yeah, who would have thought?
So, it's now June, about 2 months out from the trade show. How was the experience for you guys this year?
So it was really good. I was impressed with it. One thing that we were always worried about with New Orleans is that the memory of it is of the hottest place on earth, or most humid place on earth, I should say. And again, when you're from Miami and you go to a place and you say, this place is just too humid for me, that's very concerning. And I think if the weather had been bad, if that opening party had been rained out, all those types of things, it would have been a disaster. And I think next year it would have been, I don't even know if you could do it there. But the weather was perfect. Kudos to the organization for putting together great events. The opening party was the best opening party I've ever been to for PCA. And people were there to buy, you know. The only problem is that we screwed up on our booth pick the first time around. And so the booth didn't fit the booth space didn't fit our booth, and so we moved. But then we ended up in like North Korea or someplace. So it was that was the only bad part.
I do feel like you guys were off the beaten path of like. I have like my normal rotation of booths I go to. I'm like, man, Aganorsa is like they're out there.
You had to take a right at Pyongyang, and we were right there. You know?
I thought maybe you guys did something and they punished you.
No. It was our fault. We screwed up. It was we picked a booth space that wasn't conducive to the booth, and so we had to. We were gonna have to do a whole new booth, and we just said, let's move the space. If you got a good product, people will beat a path to your door.
And we did.
And you showed up. So
I was exhausted when I found you, but it was.
Let's not take a turn to negative
town. So yeah, I mean, I agree. I think yes, the weather was much improved from my first trade show, which was the 2015 trade show. That might have been the most uncomfortable I've ever been. Like in terms of like in my own, because I don't travel down south that much. You know, I occasionally go to. I try to avoid Florida in the summer. Unfortunately, I have to go this year in the middle of July.
Oh, hey, I live there, so
yeah. But why? But like, how did you? Because you're from Massachusetts originally, right?
Yeah.
How did you adjust to such a drastic difference? So it's not like you're a snowbird who's like, oh, I want to go where it's warm. It was kind of like you had to go there.
I was lucky in the sense that like I'd been going down. My father was from there, and so I'd been going down since I was like 2 years old.
So you built up a tolerance.
So I had a little bit, but I didn't have the tolerance. You know, I had the cup. It's like people when they come up for the winter and they build a snowman, they go, this isn't so bad. They don't do January, February, March.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with the heat. You know, you go to the beach for a couple of days. You're like, this wouldn't be so bad.
Yeah, and then 6 months later you wake up and it's like, how is it 91 again? Yeah. Like, it's not even possible.
And you're not going to the beach. You're driving to work.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
So the first year I remember, and plus, growing up in the Northeast, everyone's always dressed up all the time. So you go to work in a suit, unless you were like, doing blue collar labor, like you were in a suit all the time. And people aren't like that in Florida. But I was, when I first moved, I would be in a suit all the time, and people would be like, "What's wrong with you? Why are you dressed like
Terrence,
that?"
I think that might be the only suit that exists in Florida. I think it's illegal to own suits in Florida.
Well, maybe it should be. Honestly,
they're all like those white linen, like Miami or like Miami Vice style, nice white suits.
Yeah, you need that with the heat.
Exactly.
Otherwise you'll sweat right through.
Exactly. Even morticians are just like all in white. Just like I can't do the black. It's too heavy.
It's too much.
But what I really thought was, and I had this idea going in about the trade show this year, is that we finally got people back onto a cycle in the industry because last year when they moved it to whenever it was, late March or early April, a full year hadn't passed from the last trade show, so people hadn't moved through all that product yet. And listen, when you're a bigger company like ours, you can afford to be a little more forward thinking. Like, hey, we realize that we're still kind of stocked from last year, but we can afford to buy in some more. When you're a mom and pop shop, you can't. So they really could only buy what they could fit into their store at the time.
Yeah.
And they also didn't have that money saved up from the summer buying season.
Yeah.
Now you had a full calendar year. They moved through all their inventory, and the smart ones, and I know there was a lot of smart ones this year, kept their summer money aside, knowing I'm going to the trade show in it's going to be kind of the end of the dead zone.
Yeah, again, it was in April this year. It's a little bit better.
It's
it was
a little
last
bit
year,
better,
it was March, and so by mid-April, you should be able, if you're operating your store fairly efficiently,
right,
to make the necessary purchases or the good investments that you need to.
Exactly.
At that stage,
Exactly.
And you got the good season coming up. You get 30 days.
Right. You want to prep. Prep properly. But what we were just talking about off camera is that I noticed not a lot of new big you have some years where you're hit, and it's exciting when you're there, and it's exciting as a retailer and a member of the media when there are a lot of big launches. But on the other side of it now, from the actual manufacturing standpoint, from the selling standpoint, everyone coming out with brand new stuff all the time is just, it's not good for the industry. It's good for very short term. You get somebody excited, but then you're not following up with the continued pressure on those core lines. And I think some of that is starting to take seed with some people. All right, we can't bring out a brand new big to do every single year because of the brand new big to do we did 5 years ago. No one's going to buy it anymore. So I like seeing that because you guys didn't have a ton of new stuff. You didn't come out with 50 new
a little
lines.
bit, but I kind of view the progression of product development kind of like dating, where in the beginning, there's the parties and it's a lot of fun and a lot of wild times, everything like that. And that when you do limited editions and crazy sizes and one-offs and all that stuff, it's all fun. But as time goes on, you're kind of like, can she cook a lasagna, or can you fix the fridge or whatever?
Exactly. Who do I want to wake up next to?
And you need to have those other factors there that are less kind of exciting, but super important to maintaining the long-term viability of a brand.
Exactly. It's kind of like the dance with the one that brought you.
Exactly. Yeah.
You need to have that reliability, and it's hard to have reliability in a new brand because you don't know how the market's going to receive it yet. But there was some bigger releases out there, but I feel like last year was a little heavier on big poster board. This is the whole thing of the year is these 5 companies are releasing new product. I've always thought that the trade show has to adjust a little bit in terms of what is its main purpose, because I'm there is a purpose here. It has one.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily what it was 20 years ago.
No, it can't.
It can't be. When people were meeting in hotel rooms and stuff, because the internet didn't exist.
Yeah. Plus, it was literally the only way you could get really information, maintain relationships.
Yeah.
That was very hard to do that. Otherwise, there was. Now you have FaceTime. You have everything.
Exactly.
It's hard to get away from people.
Exactly. So do you feel the trade show is in a good spot now? Do you feel like it's finding its groove in this more modern era?
I feel it has a lot of life to it. I think it's going to keep getting better. I feel that there's a lot of effort to make sure that it's relevant in the coming years with the world changing the way it is. So I was very impressed with how they operated it this year. Again, going in, I heard a lot of people being negative. Oh, it's New Orleans. Oh, remember how it was last time? And it was great. I thought they did just a tremendous job of putting on a good show.
My only complaint about the location and the timing was that it was the same time as French Quarter Fest.
Oh, yeah, which was wild.
Yeah, and there were some people that I was actually just on a meeting with a guy from out there who's like, oh, but I actually like that it was going on because you really got a feel for the city. I'm like, that's not the feel. I don't want to feel that part of the city.
New Orleans is kind of like that friend you have that you kind of love, but if you hang out with them too much, you might end up in prison.
Yes, exactly.
That's kind of it's I like going, but when I leave, I'm like, it's probably best I'm leaving.
Exactly, and this is what I told my girlfriend when I got back. As I'm like, it's such a beautiful city with so much history, great
food's
architecture, some of the best food. but it's like they made this perfect city, and then they said, "Hey, everyone, do whatever you want all the time. Like it's just law. Like just do whatever you want, literally forever, it's fine." And I'm like, I wish it was just. I hate to be a buzzkill. I wish it was like a little stricter in like what they let me do.
No, I mean, I was walking to dinner at 6 o'clock. And it was daylight. It was kind of, maybe we're getting old.
No, I think we are. I
mean, last time, wild. I was like,
I did Bourbon Street like last time in 2015. I did the whole thing and I had a great time. This time I'm like, I just want to get some beignets and sit and like watch a boat go by. Like I don't want to. I didn't
maybe
need all
listen
the
to some jazz music.
Exactly. But I had such a good time there, and I was so impressed with the show this year and the location and everything that when I saw like the upcoming schedule and I saw that in like 2 years it's like back in Vegas, like my eyes rolled because I do not like Vegas, and I know a lot of
I don't like Vegas.
Yeah,
either.
I know. I imagine a lot of the mom and pop shops probably do because it's like it's fun, it's Vegas. I never get to go there. I'm like, but it stinks. Like
I think. I mean, again, it's probably better to be in Vegas more often than not. But I do think there was a lot of people there this year that I hadn't seen at the trade show in years because there was with a day's driving distance. They got up, early, drove in. Spent a couple days, drove back, so it was a little bit more convenient for some people.
Yeah.
So, and again, you get to get other parts of the country to get more involved in the organization.
Did you ever go to the one? I didn't go to this one, but there was one in Orlando.
Yeah, 2012.
How was that one?
So people did not like that one, but it was great.
For you, it was like a couple hour drive.
Yeah, you drive up, and then what people didn't like is it was so spread out. There was really, but like. For me, you're on the floor all day. You kind of like finished, and that was it. Like you kind of got to go to bed and everything. And it was a successful show. Tons of people went to that show. I mean, that was one of the, when I was at Casada, that was an incredible show for us. Yeah. So that was.
I wouldn't mind like a Florida. I wouldn't mind.
I would love it. I love Miami. It would be so great if it was in Miami.
Yeah, I mean that would be. I mean, it would be. First of all, 90% of the cigar companies would save so much money on air travel.
You could take people all over the place. It's their town.
You could take it to like your local, like this is my local guy that makes Cuban sandwiches, or my local whatever place instead of everyone trying to go into Brennan's in New Orleans. It was 5 restaurants that everyone really wanted to go to. But so you had a couple of things you guys announced at the show.
Yes.
So walk us through them, including.
Well, I'd say the biggest one is the JFR 20th anniversary. JFR, which you're smoking
right
now. JFR has been a tried and true line for us. That is our core brand of bread and butter. Pays all the bills, and it's been successful by a simple principle. It was to give value. It was to give somebody a cigar that they would be willing to pay even more for and charge them less.
Right.
And so we wanted to keep that essence in the 20th anniversary. We didn't want to come out with an expensive 20th anniversary cigar, even if 20 years is a big occasion. But we wanted to stay true to the nature of JFR, and so we came out with 4 sizes. They're not limited. It's going to be a new core line for us. A Toro, which is what you're smoking, and then everything else true to JFR, 6x60, 7x70, and 4 3/4x7.
I was gonna say this is a little too not classy, but a little too normal of a size for JFR.
It's a more traditional.
It's
size.
Smoking brilliantly. Is this a San Andres?
San Andres Maduro blend's incredible. We have great feedback on it, and again that cigar retails for under $10. So.
Isn't that weird saying that these days?
Yeah, it's hard.
But when I work on making a new project and I'm like, hey man, we can actually sell this for only $10, whereas the 20-year-old in me working in the store, like $10 was I wasn't seeing that cigar. Like I think what we were allowed to sign out was like literally $10 and under, and we had plenty of stuff back then. So
for sure. Yeah,
it is weird seeing these changes.
And that's really been an advantage for us. I mean, most of our stuff is under 10 still. Most of our product, that's a huge advantage. I think as people get back to reality and. Nothing's getting cheaper, and there's more bills, and the government's not sending COVID money anymore.
Exactly.
And that's been, because there's lots of great cigars out there, but there's not a lot that provides that value.
You're providing a great value, consistency, and I think you guys have some of the best tobacco out there, and that's proven not only by your cigars or by the cigars you have made for others, but also by the amount of people who use your tobacco that the rest of the world doesn't even know.
Yeah,
now, I know.
Yeah, you know.
And I love going into another factory and being like...
Seeing the bales?
I'm like, I know where this came from. I'm like, you guys, you.
Hey, they're smart.
They are.
Using
well,
the best.
Like, you guys have to be top 3 in terms of tobacco. I don't know if broker is the right word, but tobacco growers and sellers and premiums.
Yeah, in Nicaragua, certainly like us and Plasencia are the two major.
Because honestly, the only ones I really know are you, Plasencia, and Oliva Tobacco.
Yeah,
like
and Oliva's obviously,
Yeah. So I would imagine that you guys are in quite a few cigars that many people don't know about.
for sure.
But it's a testament to, it's cool to see you and like Plasencia also, people who were very known inside the industry for having high quality tobacco, but at the time couldn't kind of get their own thing going, and now seeing, Aganorsa and Plasencia kind of
they've done an amazing job.
leading. Both of you have, but both of you have. From the transition from Casa Fernandez to the first kind of iteration of what Aganorsa was like to now what you've done into really turning this into, I don't like to use the term fan favorite because I feel like when you say fan favorite, it's like, but they're not as good of a ball player. They're just a fan favorite. Nick Swisher was a fan favorite.
Yeah, I hated Nick Swisher.
Oh, of course you did.
He ended up in the All-Star game somehow.
Yeah. I mean, listen, he was an all-star to us.
Well,
and
he like campaigned for it too.
Yeah, I mean, he was a showman. That's why the fans loved him. He was a little bit of a showman.
I'm a Sox fan. I hate him implicitly. So.
You must say hate Aaron Boone way more.
Yeah.
But you guys are a fan favorite. Like, you have like a cult following, but it's beyond like. It's hard for me to explain. It's like, how Tarantino has a cult following, but he's also making like $500 million movies. Like, he's mainstream, but has this cult dedicated following.
Yeah.
That's, Fuente and Padron, I think, would have similar.
Yeah.
Like, you guys are firmly in that area.
Yeah, and again, that's kind of the idea. Is you want to have for the hardcore enthusiast, you want to have something for him to get excited about and enjoy. But you also want to have product that, like, for the vast number of consumers out there that are primarily looking for something that they enjoy, but aren't too interested in turning it into a part of their lifestyle. Right. Something for them that's, so that combination, you look at companies that have that, which the ones you mentioned are great examples. That's really powerful, I think.
No, it absolutely is. It's really important to have that connection with a customer. And, like Fuente and Padron, they don't need to have the direct connection because they're kind of built on this like longer legacy. But you guys kind of, the Aganorsa brand kind of coming up in the social media era, and you just being so smart in how you reach out to people, how you communicate with people. Listen, you're one of the few guys I know who like promotes on LinkedIn. Like most of my LinkedIn notifications are like Terence posting like cool pictures and everything.
No, you try to go everywhere you can, and again, you also never know where things are going to shut down. I mean, tomorrow they could say, okay, Facebook, Instagram, no more cigar stuff, and then you go, whoa, what do I do? Or so you try to take every avenue you can, and you never know. Some of them are better than others. LinkedIn has actually been one of the more successful for me in terms of you get better reach. It's more professional, so you don't get the nuts on there as much talking about
talking shit.
Yeah, and so it's been. You try to take every platform and see how it can be beneficial.
No, I mean, but to have such a comprehensive insight into so many aspects of your business, it's not just we need to make sure it's a good blend. We need to make sure the branding on it is but also like the avenues in which you're talking to your consumer. It's hard to find a company that like does all those things very, very well. Usually they'll kind of do two, but I find a lot of the better cigar companies lack in the communication department. They're just they're kind of like too busy just running the shop to like communicate effectively with the consumer. You're obviously the busiest man in the industry, but you still do. I mean, I walked into the store and the guys were surrounding you like you were
well, again, you
were Aaron Judge.
I mean, you want to make sure that all the people that one of the things that I learned when I worked at the factory years ago was that one person can like ruin the whole thing.
Right.
So the guy putting the band on, that doesn't look crazy, but he puts too much glue, tears the wrapper, and then the guy goes, oh, everything was perfect about this cigar except this one thing. He goes, this is a bad cigar. I got a bad cigar. He doesn't think of it as this one isolated thing. So when somebody walks in the humidor and says, oh, I heard this brand Aganorsa, or what's this? Oh, it's okay. Dead in the water. Yeah. It's better they say it's horrible.
Exactly.
So if you go down there and you talk to them and you find out what they like and you get them something that they enjoy, they get excited about it, and then somebody comes in and says, oh, what's this? Oh, that's Aganorsa Supreme Leaf. Oh, that's a limited edition. It only comes out in a different size every year. You got to try that. That sounds way more like something I've got to purchase than oh yeah, those are okay.
Yeah, they're fine.
Yeah,
it's all right.
Yeah, that's the death knell.
Yeah.
Fine is the death knell. It'd be better if they absolutely hated it with a passion.
Yeah.
It would not that that's good, but it would be better.
Because you actually have a feeling about it. At least I've been able to ignite some kind of feeling in your body.
And also, I mean, some people just out of contrarianism would be like, "Oh man, he hates it that much. I got to try it." So that's obviously not what you want. But the worst is meh. That's the worst.
Yeah, but you see, I mean, I see that online all the time. With certain like very famous, like somebody will talk about Opus X or something like that. Like, oh, these are overrated. These stink. It's like it would be much worse if someone said, like, yeah, I spent one of these. It was okay.
Yeah.
Like,
you never hear that.
You never. It's either it's the worst thing ever, or you must have this all the time.
Yeah, that's what you want.
I think it's good. I want to elicit an emotional reaction from you. I hope it's in the positive, but I'd rather it be memorable in some way.
In some way, yeah, absolutely.
Then I don't even know if I've tried that. That's not good at all.
No, terrible.
So besides the JFR 20, which by the way is smoking fantastically, this is my first time trying this one. You kind of officially unveiled the new or the very limited Aganorsa 25th.
25th anniversary, 25th correct? Anniversary. Yep, that has shipped. They're all sold. They have them at the store downstairs.
Yeah,
we
do.
Very
yep,
nice.
And we have them online too. Walk us through that. I think we did on the last episode, but just to give people a refresher, walk us a little bit through the process.
The 25th anniversary, and again, we took our time with this because I think we're on our 28th anniversary. So we were very methodical in selecting the blend and making sure the box came out nice and all the types of things that you want to do to celebrate. It's by far our most expensive cigar, I think by almost double. It's a $29.99 MSRP, but we only made 1,000 boxes. They've got 2 years of age on the cigars after rolling. It's something that you're not going to get again. We're not going to make them again. So for those who are looking for something special and then taste the difference of why is it more? Well, you can taste it.
So I'm curious to know your thoughts as someone who's worked in several facets of the industry, including working being very hands-on at a cigar factory. Because I think what a lot of people don't realize is that the cigars typically, when these cigars are it's tobacco aged for 5 years. That's just the tobacco components. That's not generally here. If that's out, I got one for you.
No, that's good.
But typically when a cigar, when the tobacco is actually rolled into the cigar, typically those sit for 90 days?
Yeah, 90 days. You need to give them 90 days.
Yeah, not 90 days. Now the tobaccos are all aged and everything
let
already.
me be clear, is that if a cigar cannot be enjoyed within 90 days of aging, you did something wrong.
Right.
It should be able to be enjoyed. Now,
realistically, it should be able to be enjoyed
right off the table.
Right off the table.
Yeah. But again, it's wet there,
Yeah,
so.
yeah. Well, that's the tough part with part of my job, getting samples from people is it's outside that initial window of just roll off the table because it'll take 5 or 6 days to get here.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, now I got to kind of wait another put it in the humidor, let it wait another couple of days to settle. But when you're right at the factory, you can smoke it right off the table and you'll get.
Yeah, I know, a good sense of tells you where you're going with it.
Exactly.
But yeah, if you can give cigars time, that almost never hurts.
Yeah, so. But I feel like I'm not going to say it's rare, but I've heard of a few instances. I think there was a Rocky Patel, obviously the Aganorsa 25th, where the fully rolled cigar is aged for an additional time. And I always thought that was smart because I feel like it gives the flavors of the different components time to harmonize together, everything to kind of settle into one story, if you will. But it's just not. I feel like it's not often done, or people aren't. It
just isn't feasible, quite frankly.
Right.
With most, if JFR, our core line had 2 years of age, at post rolling, we'd need to have Amazon warehouses. It's impossible.
I'd love to smoke a 2-year-old 7x70 though.
Yeah, well, that's true. Yeah.
Imagine how that thing would smoke.
No, but that's not feasible. Anyone telling you that is just made up. But you can do with a particular product line or a certain release or certain things you can do that with. But you just couldn't do that with everything. Right. It'd be impossible. And like I said, if you have to wait 2 years to enjoy the cigar, period, that's ridiculous.
Absolutely.
In fact, you'll probably never be enjoyable because if it's not enjoyable, if it's fermented right, cured right, at least got a decent level of base age to it. If that's done properly, that cigar should be able to be enjoyed.
Well, that's the whole thing. You wouldn't be able to ever get an accurate representation of the blend if it took 2 years post-roll to get your final product.
Yeah, you wouldn't even know what the heck.
Yeah, how do you know what it's going to be?
When it was good. You go, oh man, I hope this turns out.
think this is going to be good in 2 years.
Yeah.
Let me see.
I really hope this turns out well. Yeah.
Yeah, you need to get something that's. I would imagine you need to get something that's good, and at the time of rolling is just slightly stronger than you want it to be. Because putting it another 2 years is probably going to mellow it out.
Generally, occasionally something will get a little bit sharper or stronger
Okay.
but not generally.
Right.
Also, keep in mind that 90 days. That's when it okay, so it's 90 days, but then they got to package it, they got to ship it to the U.S. It gets into our warehouse. It's usually sitting there for a few months before it ships out. So you have much more time than just 90 days. But yeah, at the factory level and the aging rooms, 90 days is probably standard.
And that's what and I've said it on every episode I've had recently with a guest, is the easiest, in my experience, the easiest part about making a cigar, like a cigar brand, is getting the cigar. Because it's like, once you pick out a blend, 90 days, you'll just about have it. It's everything else.
Yeah, and once, like, I deal a lot with people that, and we always leave the door open because you never know. We've developed brands with people or had opportunities with people that had it face value we dismissed would never have occurred.
Right.
But the first thing that I always try to dispel is the belief that they're going to come up with this blend that people are just going to start, throwing money at them. Oh, the retailer's going to smoke it and go, this is genius. And then all the consumers come. Number one, how is anyone going to even know about it to begin with? That retailer has somebody come in 3 times a day that tells them how great something is. And then let's just say he does love it. He puts it on the shelf. There's hundreds of cigars in there, all known better than yours. So how do you get yours in front of everybody? And you have to have, not that you can't do that, but you have to have it. That's where you need to focus on if you want to be successful. The blend obviously needs to be there, but like you said, like that's an easier part in many ways than success. Because there's lots of companies I can think of over the years that had just incredible blends. I was like, man, they were making some of the best cigars out there, and just couldn't do those other things.
And they're gone. Or they've shrinked incredibly to like they're not even really on the radar anymore.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest shame. When you smoke something like, oh, this is really good, and then you see like it's just not catching.
If you've never heard of it, you can't smoke it. I mean, that's the problem.
Exactly. But like branding is really important, and smart people are able to tell when, like, where the money is gone. Smart people can definitely tell, like, if it's a fancier box, but the cigar is really great. Okay, this is overall worth it. But I mean, I've definitely smoked some stuff where I'm like, this looks way better than it is, and I could tell like more money went into the band or into the box or into like telling this tale. And I'm like, if you just put like just a more average cigar in there, it would have worked better. But so it is important to kind of balance both of those, but overall, like, both of those are top tier important. You can't really have one without the other.
And finding people that can help you with all these things. I mean, again, like, I like music. I shouldn't be like writing songs. It's not my forte. Just because I like music.
I'd listen to that, Terence. I'd put that on my Spotify.
but again, it's like people are always like, well, I smoke a lot of cigars. Well, you'll know what you like, which is important, of course, but that doesn't mean like, oh, add more of this or add more of that.
Yeah.
You want to have people that know how to do that. You want to have people, and maybe you're good at the marketing side and you don't know as much about that. Well, make sure you have people that can help you with that. Or maybe you know a lot about blends, but you don't really know much about marketing and logistics.
Right.
Make sure you have somebody, you just want to make sure you have a team around you that know how to execute the key areas, the product itself, your logistics, your marketing, those things.
I just got to a point, and I'm still nowhere near any good at it. But, and it's funny, it was with Hostos. He had sent me some test blends or something, and he told me what was in it. And the first batch was great. I'm like, all right, can you send me more test blends like in the different sizes to make sure that they all work? And one of the sizes wasn't working, and I'm looking at like his list of the tobaccos that are in it, and I'm like, I'm going to guess Hostos. I'm like, I'm tasting more of this than I would like. Is it because of this tobacco? He's like, yeah, it's that one. I'm like, can we reduce that one a little bit? And he did, and he sent us back the blends, and they were perfect. I'm like, wow, I did it.
You did it. No, I mean, again, you've been doing it a long time.
But that's the thing is, I've been doing it for 15 years.
Yeah, think about it.
And I was very like questionable. I'm like, could it be this? And he's like, yeah, it's that. I'm like, all right.
Yeah,
okay.
no, and that just shows you. I mean, like as long as you've been doing it, and yeah, you can do it. But even for you, you're still relying kind of on others to make sure that you're getting it right.
Exactly. So. Yeah. No, but that's what I tell people. Like, there's always a bigger fish. There's always somebody that you can learn from. Chris will look at me like, oh man, I just don't know how you know all this stuff. I'm like, dude, I don't know like compared to some minds in this industry, I don't know anything.
Well, I think the more you know, the more you realize how much you don't know.
Exactly. Like every time I learn something new, I'm like, how did I not know that?
Yeah.
You know, it's insane. And I lucked out where I got to kind of grow up at the tail end of an era into the beginning of a new one. So like I still kind of know like what those post boom years were like, and you know the Villazon cigars, and you know all, like you know the big time General stuff, the original EPC stuff. Like I have a
Villazon,
faint,
there's the name. Yeah,
yeah, I have like
Frankie
a
and
faint,
Issa.
exactly. The Padron's brother, was it Ernesto Padron? I think.
I forget his first name.
I
Yeah, but
think
he worked over with with General, didn't he?
Yeah. So I'm like, I have a faint memory of that, so I can kind of relate on that stuff, and then obviously like you know whatever's gone on in the past decade or so. But yeah, but then you know I'll talk to somebody like you, or I'll talk to somebody like John, you know, who was with CAO back in you know the 90s, I think, or like you know early 2000s, and he's bringing up names like, oh, you remember these ones? And I'm like, it was a little before my time,
Yeah.
a little bit before mine. What year did you start like officially in the industry?
08.
2008.
Yeah.
How old were you? You don't have to tell me that. We could
It was
believe
in my
that.
20s. It was
Okay.
like 20. I have to do math. I think 27, 26.
What were you doing before that?
So I kind of had a funny.
Because I know you have the familial connection.
Yeah. So I had spent the summer in Manuel Quesada is my uncle, for those who don't know what I'm talking about. And so I had spent the summer one year just to have fun.
Right.
And I worked at the factory, and I kind of got a little into cigars through that, basically. When I went down, I didn't smoke cigars. And I was, most guys at that age don't. But just seeing the process and seeing how much work goes into it, and how it's like an art, and then just sitting around at his house on Sundays, everyone was smoking and playing cards and having a good time. I was like, I'll have a cigar. So that's kind of how I got into it. But that was not. I went to school for classical history, so Roman Greek history.
I was a history major as well.
Yeah, so I taught. And here we are.
Yeah.
I taught.
This is what a history major gets you, folks.
I taught Latin for a couple of years.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I wanted to do a PhD. I wanted to become a professor, and then after I did the master's, I was like, man, there's going to be a lot more school, and it gets super pedantic. They start going, well, is this the genitive or the dative case? In medieval Latin, and it starts to get into stuff like that.
OST, mustis, ent, like it goes on
and on,
all the conjugate. That was exactly my career path, except I was in the process of getting my master's when I got the job on this side of the building, and I'm like, I can't do any more school.
Yeah.
But so you finished, you had your master's.
So I got my master's, and then I didn't want to do the PhD, and so I took a job teaching Latin for a couple of years, and I did that for 2 years, and then that was not going to be a long-term thing, obviously. And then I went to work for Carnival Cruise Lines as a sales rep for a while.
Oh, I could see you on a boat.
That's funny. I was in a cubicle, but it was a great experience. I wouldn't want to do that for the rest of my life.
Right.
But it was really good training, because you're calling people that have no idea who you are.
Right.
At least with a cigar store, you walk in. I mean, they sell cigars.
Right.
I mean, like,
Hey, I'm
you're
with
in
this
the right
company.
place.
It's like, all right, we have some kind of familiarity.
Yeah.
here.
So, whereas with that, it could be. I mean, who knows?
Yeah.
But I ended up doing pretty well at that, and then my uncle said, if you can do that, why don't you come work for us? And I joined him, and I moved down to Dominican Republic for a while, and then I've been doing this ever since.
You must have been, excuse my language, a freak show in the Dominican Republic.
It was like opposite Where's Waldo.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, well, we found him. It's like, the cop comes, I'm looking for a white guy. He's there, man.
Yeah,
you could see him
that
from
guy.
10 miles away. But that must have been awesome. And it must have been like a little jar, like such a, but again, you had gone down there for summer before, you had your uncle, so I'm guessing you had some familiarity with the culture and the language.
It wasn't like a culture shock or anything like that. But definitely it's a different way of life. I mean, it's driving is nuts, and then the power goes out and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But there's advantages too. I had somebody that cooked dinner for me, and I had somebody that did laundry and all this kind of stuff. So that was nice, obviously.
Yeah.
So there's pros and cons. I enjoyed my time there. Honestly, I could live anywhere. I mean, as long as I have a stable environment.
I mean, you're living in Miami, so yeah.
Yeah,
I imagine you could live anywhere.
Miami's the craziest place of all to live. So
Yeah.
I can certainly, I think, handle any place.
What would you say is the major difference in, and this is going to sound like a very generic, wide-ranging question, but your time in the DR versus the, I'm sure, immense amount of time now you've spent in Nicaragua. What would you say in both in terms of the industry and its overall culture? Like, what would you say like the differences are?
Dominican Republic is a much more developed country. I mean, if you fly into Santiago, you're right there. There's all sorts of hotels. There's all sorts of restaurants. There's industries there that have nothing to do with cigars.
Right.
So you're in more of a developed place, comparatively speaking.
Yeah, easier access to places.
Yeah.
Like internet is like probably more things like that. Things we take for granted here. Like, oh, they have like a good road that can get you from A to B.
Yeah, Nicaragua and Esteli, they're still waking you up with the air raid siren.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit, but if you're into cigars, I think Esteli is probably the most interesting place that you can possibly be. The benefit with like going to Santiago is that you could go down with people that aren't interested in cigars, and they would have just as good a time.
Yeah.
You kind of if you're going to Esteli, you want to be interested in tobacco.
Yeah, and you want to be interested in cigars or volcanoes.
Yeah, volcanoes.
Yeah, that's really it. No, but I see what you're saying. I only went to the DR once to go to, and I went to La Romana to the TG factory.
Even more beautiful.
Exactly.
La Romana is incredible.
But it's interesting because like Nicaragua, I didn't really realize this until later. Like Nicaragua, like does have a tourism industry, but it's so not where the cigar industry.
Yeah, no,
is. It's like
for sure.
The
like
total
Granada
other part
and,
of the country.
San Juan del Sur and all that.
Yeah, exactly. But no, I love. I thought Esteli was awesome. I've been there a couple of times. I think Honduras is developing more now, and I think I did that trip last year with. We went with Davidoff, so it was kind of like cheating.
Yeah.
They weren't going to let us have a bad time. But no, I was more of a fan of Nicaragua, but that's because I've been there more. The DR, like we stayed in like a resort. Like I didn't really get to experience like anything really about it.
The only bad thing about La Romana is that if you're looking for the cigar experience, I mean, obviously the factory there is amazing. It's the largest factory in the world. But like, it's not like a cigar
town.
It's not a
cigar town.
Yeah.
Right.
Whereas if you go to Santiago for sure is a cigar. I mean, there's much more of that there. They have other things as well, as I said, but like it's definitely a cigar culture in Santiago.
I'm trying to think. I mean, I got to get to Cuba. Have you ever been to Cuba?
No, I have a lingering, loyalty to my family who
I got you.
Had everything, nicely. They donated it all to the government.
Exactly.
But not that I don't blame anyone for going, and I certainly can see why people would want to go, but I don't want to give any money to the government.
No, I fully understand. I mean, also, I don't want to give any money to my own government.
For any government.
Yeah, exactly. That was a thing that I think it was in Nicaragua the first time I went down there. And we're just at the air, and of course, no one tells us this, even though they should have. But as soon as like we're walking through, I'm like showing them my passport. He's like, "Oh yeah, it's like $10 cash."
Yeah.
To get into the country, and I'm like, I don't have $10 cash on it. And they were like, "Well."
They at least have change. When you cross into Honduras, it's like $8, but they don't have change. So
it's just $10. Yeah. And keep the change, buddy.
Yeah.
I messed up really bad. And listen, it was fine. But we were on the bus. This is last year in Honduras. And we're coming to like one of the checkpoints, military checkpoint, which I've been around for my time in all three of these countries. And I was like way in the back of the bus. And I just thought it would be a little fun. I like turned to one of my coworkers and I'm like, hey, did you pack those drugs away? Like knowing the guy can't hear. Like, I know for a fact he can't hear me. My boss stood up and turned around at me. His face was like pale. Everyone on the bus got so mad at me.
It was like the record player scratched.
Yeah, and they were like, no, dude, like, you gotta take that serious here. I'm like, come on, guys, like he definitely like couldn't have heard. Like I just said the word drugs. Like what? But they were like, no, like it is. I'm like, all right, I'll be.
I know Dominican. It's like the two things you don't want to bring. Because when I used to go down to Dominican, I had family there, and so I mean, I literally brought in BMW parts, lobsters, cheese.
BMW parts.
Electronic equipment. And I was like, am I going to get arrested for this? They don't care as long as it's not guns or drugs. But if those things might end up in a Dominican prison.
I mean, listen, I think most countries have a problem of somebody bringing in guns or drugs. It's not like I could just like waltz into Norway with like an AK in my bag.
No.
Texas, you flying into Houston, you probably couldn't do that. But most countries, so very, very understandable. What is next on the horizon? Is there anything that's in development or being released soon or being announced soon that you can kind of give us a little tidbits
the only,
on?
the next size Supreme Leaf, it's the 5th anniversary of Supreme Leaf, and it's going to have a little updated packaging. It's going to be a Toro 6x56 box pressed.
Ooh.
And we wanted to keep the vibrant colors of the original band, which we think is distinctive and makes the band stand out. But we also wanted to kind of give it a little bit of an uplift, so it's a little bit more gravitas to the look of it. And so that we're excited about that. That'll ship at the end of June as the next size. And but other than that, it's really the JFR 20th, getting that out there. Our validation lines, our anniversarial lines.
Validation lines. I mean, listen, we were just looking at the numbers, doing very, very well.
Yeah.
And that's why I pushed to bring those in. I'm like, this is great. This is the cigar. Like, we're already selling the other Aganorsa as well. This is the cigar that brings people to the other ones.
Yeah.
It's like the Corojo brings people to, the Supreme Leaf. The Connecticut brings people to the Anniversario. Like, this is the one that leads them to the next step.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I think that's exactly what it's doing. So
yeah, that's the idea of it, is, again, to have a core line Aganorsa brand that people, they look at the price, go, I'll for that price, yeah, no problem. And then that really hooks them into Aganorsa, so that when they look at the Anniversarios or the Rare Leaf or things like that, they go, oh yeah, let me try that now.
Do you have a favorite validation, or are you
like
going to toe the party line of one great for every time?
Connecticut is my. I smoke that Validation Connecticut more than almost any other cigar.
Really?
It's not my. There's my favorite, and then there's what I smoke the most. And what's nice about the Validation Connecticut is I can go, when you go from store to store and you travel around, you end up smoking a lot of cigars. And so if you're smoking strong cigars all day long,
your palate's shot, you're all woozy.
Yeah,
it just becomes a lot.
And then it's just not enjoyable anymore. And or you just don't have a cigar, and the guy's kind of like, Terrence, I haven't seen you in a year, and
you're not gonna smoke with me.
Yeah, what do I do?
Cigar guys get very insulted if you don't smoke with them.
So the Validation Connecticut allows me to have a cigar consistently throughout the day, but not overwhelm me, and I still enjoy it. It's got great flavor, great balance. It's really, when people say they don't like Connecticut's, I go, I don't either. Try the Validation Connecticut.
Exactly. So actually, I'm going to end it on this question, because I never actually asked this. I assume I know how it works, but I want to ask, because every person that I meet in the industry works for a manufacturer. Do you have to do you get an allocated amount of cigars, or do you just call back to headquarters?
I validate. It's part of the job.
So it's a marketing expense.
It's not for it's not for me. It's for you.
Yeah.
I'm doing it for you.
That's what you tell the bosses then, guys, I'm doing this for you.
Yeah. It's the validation process is sacred, and we can't survive without it. So.
No. Listen,
I don't abuse the privilege.
I don't think that you do.
But in all seriousness, I always joke about that, because ultimately you're smoking a cigar, but it is something we got a shipment in yesterday before, it was my last day in the office this week, and I had to go through a bunch of stuff, and it's, okay, does it look right? Is the draw good? Is the wrapper color right? Okay, is it burning well? Is the taste the same as it's, is the last time? Is it being consistent? And so that's something that we really do. And so it's something you have to do. So sometimes it's even more than what I really would do otherwise. It's an actual real thing.
I always say it's work, but sometimes it actually is work.
Yeah.
Sometimes it actually is real work.
Yeah. Like yesterday, I was like, by the third or fourth cigar, I was kind of like, ooh, all right.
No, but listen, it's important to listen, anyone can smoke a cigar once and kind of tell you about it, but I want to hear about the Validation Connecticut from someone who smokes 15 of them a week. It's I can tell you everything about the cigar. I can tell you how it smokes on a hot day, on a cold day. I can, I'm the expert on this product every which way.
And one of the things, it really is a little bit different. Again, I'm not in a coal mine. I'm not diffusing bombs. It's not. I don't want to make it sound like I'm doing something that's super important or arduous or something like that. But it is different. I remember one time I got home from a trip, and it wasn't too late. It was a Friday night, and it was probably 10 o'clock or something. So it was late enough, but it wasn't too late. So I went outside and I lit up a cigar and had a nice drink. And I was just sitting there enjoying it, and I was like, this is really wonderful, because I was just sitting there enjoying it. I wasn't
I get
thinking
to
about it.
Do this on my own. Oh wow, this is what all my customers see all the time. This is awesome.
I kind of had forgotten this is what you're supposed to actually do. So
I'm trying to remember. It was probably last summer. I know it sounds like a sin. The last time I enjoyed a cigar for just not in this building or at a work thing.
Purely nothing else. Yeah.
Yeah, I was at I was probably golfing but even golfing you're constantly putting on. It was probably at somebody's pool last summer that I got to sit down and just smoke a cigar
and purely enjoy it.
Purely enjoy it.
Yeah, you're not doing anything else. You're not analyzing it. You're just
exactly. And
it's a nice feeling.
It is, and that can really I've had some cigars that I smoke a lot of kind of during the workday. I'm this is good. but then having it like kind of in that moment will completely alter my perception of that cigar and that
Sure.
and that brand. So it is important. So to all the customers out there, make sure you're taking the time to sit and enjoy it. You know, like I realize that some people like they buy a lot, they want to smoke through their stash or whatever. Like, gotta try all this new stuff. Take your time and enjoy each cigar. They were meant to be enjoyed, like fully. So and that's something I would like to get back into this summer a little bit. Terrence, thank you. It's always a pleasure.
Pleasure's mine.
Oh no, I please don't take my pleasure. That's my pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us as always. Looking forward to having you on again soon. Looking forward to some great things in the future from Aganorsa, but everyone check out the JFR 20 year. I loved this Super Toro. I think it was absolutely fantastic, milk chocolatey. And I did smoke the 25th year Aganorsa you gave me at the show, and it was superb. Absolutely superb.
Only the best for you.
Thank you, my friend. I appreciate it. I know you aged it just for me. There was one extra day of age.
I was
it,
like,
just for
wait.
me.
We got to wait one more day for next.
Leave this one cigar in here
yeah.
for one extra day.
Yeah.
But no, I'm just so happy with what you guys are doing. I think the industry is reacting really well to it. So keep on doing what you're doing. Thank you for joining us as always. And everyone out there, thank you very much for watching. Make sure to check out all the great Aganorsa cigars available on our website. Continue to comment, like, and subscribe. And as always, keep it lit.